G'day, ladies and gentlemen, legends of the highest regard, and welcome back to our Democracy 4 playthrough here in Australia, and trying to turn Australia into an absolute global economic superpower. What is my Streamlabs doing? That's better. Very good. So, in the previous episode, we got to the point where even though, according to our GDP, our debt was higher than our GDP, the line actually wasn't higher than our GDP at all, which straight away meant that our GDP was a lot higher than what the game was actually able to depict. So we have broken democracy for at this point, by creating an economy that is so incredibly strong, the game doesn't quite know how to render it. So, fortunately, I have a mod that every time I save the game and close down, as I explained in the previous episode, kind of does sort that out for us. So basically now, if we have a look, our GDP is 4.2 trillion, according to the mod, and our debt is 3.26 trillion. So basically we have $1 trillion above what our debt is, even though previously we had 200 and something billion dollars of extra debt to what we did income, or GDP, or whatever you want to refer to it as. So currently we have a BBB credit rating, but obviously after the first turn here, that will change. Now, I'm not exactly sure where we should be obviously going from here. We have a lot of policies implemented, and we do actually have bureaucracy as a thing because of that. But I mean, as you can see, our expenditure is quite significant. Our income is not fantastic. And of course, the only way to sort of fix these things is to implement more policies, which goes against the whole bureaucracy thing. But yeah, so we basically need to start investing in big things that will cause the economy to explode even more. But we want to invest in things that have a large, potentially a large startup cost, and that is it. Not a huge ongoing cost. So, a Mars program would certainly be something worth looking at, as would a space program. Now, capital controls. Don't know if I want to go into that yet. So we'll definitely also should be looking at vertical farm subsidies and an organic farming subsidy, as well as eco-home regulations. Because obviously we do want to maintain the environment for as long as we possibly can. We don't want to do too much with the tax. A hybrid cars initiative we will need to implement. A luxury goods tax is already a thing in this country, so we're going to need to implement that. We do have some mortgage tax relief in Australia, so we're going to need to implement that as well. There is a flat income tax in Australia, so we're going to need to implement that. There is also property tax, so we're going to need to implement that too. So there's a few taxes that we need to implement which the game doesn't implement, which should be implemented. So that might also help our economy position in terms of the income side of things. As you would know from the previous episode, we have extremely wealthy people within this country. Nobody has less than $100,000 a year in disposable income, which is just insanity. So we will definitely do some compulsory foreign language classes, because that's going to up the tourism, it's going to up foreign investment, it's going to up international trade, it's going to up foreign relations, and it costs nothing. We'll also look at doing things. Compulsory language lessons? So isn't that compulsory foreign language classes and compulsory language lessons? Are they not the same thing? I guess if they're not the same thing, we will obviously implement both is what I'm trying to get at. Now, youth club subsidies, maybe, however, not necessarily a requirement because we have no crime. Would not be high up on the list. Desalination plants, maybe not. Free school meals, probably don't need to implement at this point. As we do potentially implement more taxations, which we will have to implement, obviously avoiding taxing those who are at the lower end of the income scale and only focusing on those who have significantly large amounts of money, where a small increase in tax is not going to cause them a problem or cause the economy of the country a problem, which is very important that when we do introduce taxation, we do not negatively affect those who cannot afford it. Now, law and order, I don't think that we need anything much under law and order. Maybe proportionate fines so that those who make more money get fined more money, those who have less income, that might be worth looking at. An anti-corruption agency is something would be definitely looking at doing. And possibly another thing to look at would be unexplained wealth orders. So obviously, as people's income increases more and more and more and more and more, if we do have an issue with like tax evasion and things like that, a simple system to sort of maybe get that under control without spending a huge amount of money is just if somebody has a hell of a lot of wealth that they cannot explain where it came from, which they should have no issues in being able to do, because basically we are offering everyone the ability to live healthy and free without stress. So it sort of would cause questions to be asked, kind of thing, because we sort of know what we're doing for the people, and if they've got a vast amount of wealth that has come from places that they cannot explain, then you have to start going, why is that? And then one more thing that we will need to implement that is already very much implemented in this country is speed cameras. And they are implemented very much, as are tasers, as are rubber bullets. So we don't need to do anything without ID cards. We will implement tasers and rubber bullets just to bring the game into what Australia is. Obviously, they're both implemented on a very low scale. However, I know it sounds crazy because we don't have a crime rate, so it's probably not something that we will look at doing soon. Much more important things. And then we need to start offering some subsidies. So we want bike subsidies, we want biofuel subsidies, we want bus subsidies, bus lanes, clean fuel subsidies, electric cars initiative, fuel efficiency standards, high-speed rail subsidies. We want all of those things because employment, because that is one huge issue still going on within the country, mainly because of the massive GDP. People don't feel like they need to work, but we need to consider it. So, and under welfare, the universal basic income is one thing we can definitely look at doing in the future as well, because it brings up everyone's income and that will directly affect the GDP. However, it is a massive undertaking cost-wise, and we have more important things to figure out at this point. So, right, we're going to do the compulsory foreign language classes, like I said, and we are going to maximize that at the full level. Then we will straight away under transport, we are going to implement a biofuel subsidy, because it is not significantly expensive. It does significantly increase the food price. However, we will sort that out with the organic and vertical farm subsidies. Now, subsidy seems insane, I know. I'm not necessarily saying that this is how I would run a government in real life. The purpose of this playthrough is to just have a GDP that is stupid, probably unattainable for a country of this size, but I've already broken the game at this point, so why not break it some more is my thought process here. So, we'll do that as well. That leaves us with 7 political capital. Yep, we'll leave the labour laws where they're at. Maternity leave, we will increase that to there. Supposedly that brings down productivity, but it, you know, like, I would argue that one. So one thing we can also do is, once we've implemented the electric cars initiative and the hybrid cars initiative and things like that, because we also have new car subsidies, we have all sorts of things to basically make it really easy for people to buy alternative fuel vehicles, we can then increase the petrol tax. But we're only going to do that once we know that very few people are going to actually be using petrol vehicles. We don't want to do that whilst we still know that a lot of people rely on petrol vehicles to get around. Now, are electric and hybrid vehicles better for the environment? There's many questions surrounding that, you know, in the long-term disposal of batteries and all that. But for the sake of the limitations of the game, we'll go with yes, it is. Now, the reason that middle income doesn't like us is because there's not really... It says that the percentage of the middle income population is 83.9%, and their problem is with income tax. Right, but I haven't touched income tax, so what's the problem exactly, guys? I don't quite understand what your issue is. How many religious people are there in the country? 924,000 religious people, and they are furiously opposed to the government. Fair enough. Sounds like a personal problem if you ask me. Alright, let's go to the next turn of government here. So, there we go. Our credit rating is now A. GDP is in a fantastic position. The debt is still a problem. We're going to have to do something about this income. I'm not sure what's going on, but the income is just not where it's meant to be. So, where is the electric cars initiative? We are going to... Oh, wow, that can get expensive. No, we're not going to... Should we ban gas-powered cars? No, that seems a little bit insane. So we're going to do taxis. And then there is somewhere, trying to remember where it is, the hybrid cars initiative. We will fund that to the maximum. And then... Okay, well, we can't do anything on the petrol tax at this point because we used up all our political capital there. Also, why is our popularity dropped so far? That's interesting. Empty house taken over by homeless people. Well, we're going to evict them because we don't have homeless people. Look, poverty is 0. That doesn't make any sense. We physically cannot have homeless people. What junk food tax? I haven't done anything about junk food. What are you talking about? Obesity is under control. We brought obesity under control by feeding people healthy food. Like, huh? That doesn't make any sense. Not many things make sense in this world. Alright, so... So we needed to bring down the food price because we brought it up. So now we'll bring it down with the organic farming subsidy. So, as you can see, we're basically trying to balance everything. You know, as I said, this isn't necessarily the way I would run government with this many policies, but basically by implementing this many policies, we're going to end up with a GDP that is completely and utterly ridiculous for a country of this size. It really will be something quite insane. Yeah, I mean, it won't hurt to have a bicycle subsidy, but then we need to obviously make sure that we have bicycle lanes and, you know, things like that. So we will implement this. We'll just implement it at that level. You know, we don't want to spend too much money, says the man who's currently spending $176 billion per turn. We don't want to spend too much money. Yeah, okay. We'll go to the next turn. So, the country's latest technology startup success story. So, that's awesome. I mean, the GDP growth in this... I mean, we've had every single turn so far, we've had astronomical GDP growth. So, I'm keeping a tally. So far, our GDP has grown 13%. Which is just insane. So we've grown the GDP 13% from 4.2 trillion. So I don't know what that is in layman's terms and numbers, but I feel like it's pretty insane. And more to the point, we have a $4.2 trillion GDP, and the economy is in ruin. Like, absolute ruin. So in fact, $4.2 trillion of GDP, and the global economy has only got a couple of billion dollars in it. So basically, we are the global economy at this point, which is just nuts. So now it is time to implement the space program. And we are going to put a space station in, and we are going to really spend big money, actually 2.21 billion, with no ongoing implementation cost is actually quite good, really. So fair enough. No complaints on that one. So the deficit is now 90.39 billion, which is not ideal. And I'm just going to keep, at this point, as I've mentioned previously, I'm just going to keep spend on things that will provide for the people, things that will increase the GDP so that our GDP to debt ratio is always at the highest possible level that it can be. Now we have $92.77 billion of debt. Cool. So a large internet company has announced plans to buy out one of its main competitors. Yeah, why not? Alright, so now we have a 14% GDP increase for the episode, which is quite insane, really. It really is. I don't know what to do about the income. The petrol tax can... doing that is going to actually make us no money whatsoever because nobody uses petrol cars anymore. We make no money, so we're just going to cancel the policy. There is no point having a tax on something that we don't. So that's going to help to increase the health. We're going to start dragging up the tobacco tax. Sort of want to focus on taxing things that are not going to affect the people in too much. Payroll tax. Leave it where it is. I haven't touched it yet. I haven't had to touch it yet. So we'll... capital gains tax. Depends where we're at. With people. I mean, the disposable income is through the roof. It really is. Like... disposable income, $2.8 million a year. That's nuts. It is nuts. Even George Russell, with his disposable income of $300,000 a year, like, is considered the poorest person in the country right now. So I have literally broken the game. I have broken the game. It doesn't know what to do. So let's just keep breaking the game. Oh, we only have 4 political capital. Okay, next turn. Still, supposedly, tax evasion is sitting on the start trigger, but doesn't seem to be going any worse. Unemployment is still 28%, which I'm almost tempted to now completely remove the benefits that the government provides to those who are unemployed. A criminal-only database, because we don't really have crime. But it won't hurt either to have it. Geez, the global economy is skyrocketing right now. But so is our debt. However, the GDP will obviously move again once the little mod I have adds 14% GDP growth. And that's 14% GDP growth that I know about as well. You know, it may be aware of other things. So, vertical farm subsidies, that's going to bring the food cost right down as well, which we want to do. There's going to be a lot more farmers. Farmers' income is going to increase. It's going to reduce unemployment again, supposedly. However, all these policies that I'm introducing don't seem to be actually touching unemployment in any way, shape, or form. We don't need to do anything really with fuel efficiency standards because nobody uses petrol cars now in this country at all. So we just eradicated a disease, which is nuts. Well, there you go. Here I am going to implement more policies, potentially. Don't necessarily need to, but if it can keep blowing the GDP out of the water, I mean, why wouldn't you? So now it's time, I think, to start implementing some of the taxes that actually exist within Australia already. So there is definitely a luxury goods tax. I'm not sure what it is. I might just quickly have a Google of that so that I can implement it at the right way. So Australia luxury goods tax is 33%. So that's what we'll do. We'll have it at 33%. And then we go back to tax again. Public tax returns will help with equality and probably with tax evasion as well, actually. So let's do that. It cost us nothing to have. It's going to potentially piss people off, but it means that they can't do the wrong thing behind the scenes. Religious symbols in schools. No, I'll reject the ban. They're still allowed to be a part of our society if they want to be, and I don't blame them for being, because it really is a good society to be involved in. So, now we need to bring in mortgage tax relief. So let's just Google what that is so we get the correct numbers. So it doesn't actually say, it's just you can interest relief is what we have on mortgage tax relief in the country. So we have interest relief. It is not going to make us any money, so we will just implement it at a low level, like so. for the moment. All right, next turn. So these are going to take. This is going to take a few turns to get things under control. Power lines. Well, we don't need to do that because we have microgeneration and all that. So we're going to stop the construction of that. We have pollution under control. Oh, okay. Did not expect that. And we are 72% popular. Wow. Even the poorest people in this country have $300,000 of disposable income. That is quite something. Also, the expenditure is not really going out of control, and the income is certainly coming up. I wonder if that's because I just implemented the public tax returns, and now those people who were doing dodgy shit behind the scenes can no longer do said dodgy shit. That would be interesting. So this is going to annoy people. I am going to tax the crap out of religion. Oh, hang on. This hands... No, this hand... No. Oh, that was a problem. Why did I click on... Why can't you cancel something after you click on it in this game? That's a good question to ask. Why can't you cancel it after you click on it when you accidentally click on the wrong thing? That doesn't seem correct. But we will head to the next turn. Okay. Whatever. Sure. No worries. Ooh. That hurts. So, we are now 77% popular. Okay. Right. What can be looked at? So let's implement the eco home regulations just nicely in the middle there. We probably won't need to do any more real environmental stuff. How many turns? We've got 3 turns. So I might hold on to the political capital and go to the next turn in the hope that I could potentially implement the Mars program now. So e-scooters, no, do nothing. That would be crazy. So we are now 79% popular. Interesting. It's almost as if people enjoy having money and no stress in their life whatsoever. And they like when... Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? So we're going to do the Mars program, and then we're going to do citizenship for sale as well, because that's going to explode the GDP, supposedly. So we're going to have a Mars base. Supposedly that's going to reduce the unemployment rate by 18%. Okay, if you say so. Right, so then we go to the next turn. Yep, as usual about this time, the credit rating does get downgraded. However, we obviously do need to run the mod at the end of the save game so that we can come back to the correct GDP next time round. So the polls now has us a very, very popular government. So citizenship for sale, that's going to give us money, and we're going to get a it's only 1% GDP. Interesting. But that's cool. I'm happy with that. I'm fine with that. You know, as we know, this is a GDP playthrough. The deficit is nearly 100 billion, which is not ideal. See, like, we don't really need to do, like, family planning. I mean, babies don't really get born into poverty in this country. However, it does bring up gender equality. And we do want to maintain an egalitarian society at some point. So I guess that's not necessarily a bad decision. But one thing I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to, whilst we're sitting here, I'm going to get a good idea of where the GDP is going to be. So obviously it may not quite be this high because we have lost some percentages of GDP as well. But that's 4.2 million. That's 4.2 billion. That's 4.2 trillion. And then we're going to increase that by... So we're up to nearly $5 trillion GDP. So I have a feeling that the next time we come in to this playthrough, the GDP is going to be in excess of $5 trillion, which is quite insane. So the next turn will take us to the election. We only have 4 political capital. We know we are going to absolutely walk this election because of how popular we are with the people. So let's go. I would love to cut income tax, but unfortunately that will cause an issue with the debt if I do. We can probably start saving money on police and stuff. Yeah, we probably can. So probably we'll look to cut the armed police as our next pledge that we will aim to do. Alright, let's go to the election. So, geez, the Patriotic Alliance has spent a huge amount of money, but I don't think they're going to win. Oh, wow. So yeah, it turns out people really, really, really like having money and no stress in life and the ability to save things. And, you know, it's almost as if you look after your population will look after you. And as you can see now, even though the deficit has increased, the expenditure to income ratio is moving apart a lot slower than what it was because now the continuous coming in money is starting to filter back in. It's taken a long time, and I knew it would take a long time, and it's still going to take a long time for us to get to the point where the debt actually starts to come down. But we're on the right path. So the religious are the ones who voted for the Patriotic Alliance, which, yeah, I mean, they're not a bad political party. So I've increased the lifespan by 90% and dropped the food price by nearly 90%. But look at this. Productivity through the roof. CO2 emissions and crime down. Foreign investment up. Tourism is up. Industrial automation, though, that's going to be a big problem behind our lack of employment. So we may have to introduce an industrial automation tax or increase the industrial automation tax. Energy efficiency exploded. Health exploded. Poverty non-existent. Technology, gender equality. It's just through the roof. Massive, 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 massive. Crazy, crazy stuff. The guy in the economy doesn't like me. So, you lose your job, mate. So, we're going to hire an economy minister. Who has probably, we'll give Alexander James a go. Environmental protests for an oil pipeline. I wasn't even aware of the fact that we were building an oil pipeline, seeing as we don't really do anything to do with oil. Whatever, that's fine. Alright, so again, an extremely successful episode. We're staring down the barrel now of a GDP of more than 5 trillion, which is just, it doesn't quite seem normal. But I mean, look at the GDP. It's just yeah. Insane. Absolutely bonkers. So, as you can see, the GDP, the debt is supposedly more than the GDP, but as you can see, there is a significant distance between them, which just, that comes down to the fact that we are well and truly going to be over $5 trillion of GDP, which is just, yeah, doesn't seem normal. And very much shows that we have, in fact, absolutely 100% broken the game. And you know what? Cool. But that does bring us to the end of the episode here, ladies and gentlemen. If you did enjoy me breaking Democracy 4 into many pieces, please do consider hitting that like button, possibly having a subscribe button, a bit of fun with the subscribe button as well. Obviously, any comments about what you would like to see me do are greatly appreciated as well. But wherever you are in the world, you make sure that you stay safe, stay well, look after yourself, and don't do anyone that I wouldn't do. And I will see you in the next video. Cheers.